So let's go ahead and let's go forward. So Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw the stairway resting on the earth and its top reaching to the heavens, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Now, see, that's the part of the covenant we especially get to enjoy in. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. So God goes on ahead and confirms what Isaac has told him, because Isaac has said, may he give you, your descendants, the blessing given to Abraham. And so then God steps in and does indeed give that same promise, the covenant promise, to Jacob. He confirms it right here, just as it belonged to Jacob from the beginning. So I want you to, again, grab a hold of that this was not a stolen promise. Jacob stole something that didn't belong to him, and it never did belong to him. Because as his life went on ahead and bore out, those things that were promised to him in that original blessing were not ones that he got to grasp in his lifetime. Okay, so he continued on his journey, and when Jacob woke up from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Okay, when Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me in the journey I am taking and will give me the food to eat and clothes to wear so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. Isn't that interesting? You put that stipulation on it. Lord God, I trust you, but I'm going to go ahead and I will really trust you if these things come about. If all your promises come true, then I'll know that you really are my God. And this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. And of all that you give me, I give you a tenth. So Jacob is making this internal promise to himself and to the Lord that he will serve the Lord if the Lord indeed is faithful to the things he heard through the night. And of course the Lord was, and he was his God. And then he gave him a tenth of everything. Isn't it interesting? That is before the law. People say, well, tithing is about the law. This is way before the law. This is something about our relationship between us and God. I'm not going to try to say that I want to guilt anyone who has not agreed with this, but I want you to understand that it's bad theology to say that giving a tenth of what we have to the Lord as an offering, as a tithe, meaning tenth, that is law. It wasn't law. It was something the Lord put in Abraham's heart. It's something the Lord put in Isaac's heart. It was an internal thing that the Lord put in Jacob's heart. It was not a part of the law. It was a part of the relationship, a part of the covenant relationship, as we still have today. And so I want you to make sure to know that. So Jacob said all of this to the Lord. He promised all these things, and then he continued on his journey. So I just want to kind of give you a few facts about the journey that he was going on. He had left his parents in Beersheba, and he's going to Haran. So that is a trip that was about just under 580 miles. So it would have taken him, if he was walking, it would have taken him probably 25 to 30 days. And that's if the weather was good, if he didn't have a day that he needed extra rest. If he traveled 8 hours a day and he was a pretty quick walker the entire time. So he was about a month away from his family, which is a significant amount of time to be traveling on foot, really. And so when he's crying out to the Lord saying, if you provide me food on this journey and all the way across the desert, and right now these two places, of course, Beersheba is in Israel, and then as he walked up through Damascus, all the way through Syria and into Turkey, which is modern day Turkey, the southern part of Turkey. So this was excuse me, this is the same journey that Abraham took that now he's taking back up. Isaac never went that far away. The furthest that Isaac traveled in his lifetime was probably 200 miles total, but this one journey is almost 600 miles. Just for a little bit of information there. Okay, so let's go ahead into 29. Then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern peoples. There he saw a well in the open country. Interesting. So he's been walking for a month, and he happens upon this well in the open country, so there's not really a town close by, and 3 flocks of sheep lying near it because the flocks were watered from that well. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the well's mouth and water the sheep. Then they would return the stone to the place over where the mouth of the well was. And Jacob asked the shepherds, "My brothers, where are you from?" "From Haran," they replied. He said, "Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson?" Okay, so he's like, okay, I've walked in this general direction for 30 days, and I'm at this well that's out in the wilderness. Would you happen to know, I don't know, maybe this is a really far-fetched idea. I know you're from New York City. Would you happen to know my cousin? It was kind of that thing. I've traveled all of these. If we had traveled 30 days, even in a car, we would end up, if you were in, say, in the southern part of the United States, and if you drove by car, it would take you about that long, maybe not even that long, to get all the way to the very end of Alaska, the very tip of it up there, if you could even make it up there by car. And so then just kind of out there, there's nothing going on. There's a little bitty hole-in-the-wall place, and you walk and say, "Would you happen to know my cousin? I heard he moved up here, or was from up around these parts." What's the likelihood of that? Okay. So when his reaction is so amazing, and they said, "Yes, we know him." Then Jacob asked, Is he well? Is he still alive?" "Oh, yeah, he is. And here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." "Look," he said, "the sun is still high. It's not time for the flocks to be watered. Water the sheep and take them back to pasture." "We can't," they replied, "until all the flocks are gathered." I think he wanted time alone right then, because he knew he was going to break down. He was like, "Can y'all water your sheep and head along?" While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with his father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw Rachel's daughter of his uncle Laban and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away over the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep aloud. I guess so. I would have wept aloud too if I had been walking for 30 days, not even sure if I was going to have food or water, hoping I was heading in the right direction. I can't imagine. He didn't have a compass. They didn't have those. Of course, he's watching the stars as he's walking along, I suppose. He's trying to head basically in the right direction when the sun sets and the sun rises. But for him to stumble upon his uncle's daughter, what a miracle. I mean, really, no wonder he wept aloud.